Now to Southern Africa, where South Africa is one of the countries with the highest rate of cybercrimes, with more than 2 billion rand lost each year to fraudulent activities carried out via the internet. During this festive season, these crimes have increased, with experts warning the public to be extra cautious. According to private investigators, Rich Crouch and Associates, 70% of South Africans have fallen victim to cybercrime, compared to 50% globally, with 47% of smartphone users having experienced mobile cybercrime in the past 12 months, compared to 38% globally. To understand why South Africa is becoming a hotspot for cybercrime, we are now joined by Professor Sizwe Mtuzi, an attorney in cyber law in East London, and William Mills, Senior Training Coordinator in NACT Program Institute for Security Studies in South Africa. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Good evening.
Let me start with Willem. Now, looking at the statistics that I wrote out earlier, now, how did South Africa get to this point as a country where we see so much in the higher rate of cybercrime? What are the causal factors for the increase in cybercrime in South Africa?
Yes, I think we should look at that and see it against the backdrop of the spike in crime and transnational organized crime in South Africa, all across board, where cybercrime, about 80 to 85% of all transnational organized crime is either cybercrime related or cybercrime initiated. So that is the background. Also, we have to see that South Africa has got the strongest economy in Africa, with a banking system that is backing up that economy. And we moved more and more towards a paperless society in South Africa, business-wise, and also with our personal financial accounts, where the majority of the people have access to the internet. Against that background, we see this boom in cybercrime in South Africa.
All right, let me go to Sizwe. Well, we are in the festive season, and we know that cybercrime and fraudulent activities are not actually peculiar to South Africa. But then, Sizwe, as a cyber law expert, how can users of cyberspace and, of course, internet users protect themselves from being defrauded?
I think what is important is that people need to start respecting their own privacy. I think what is critical there is that users of the internet, users of cell phones, users of smartphones need to take active steps in avoiding to give out the private information. Now, people are very tempted to give out their private information because there's a new app that does some fascinating things, or you believe that it can do all these fascinating things, whereas in actual fact, it is a cyber crime. There is some form of fraud that is taking place, and instead of you even getting the service that you believe you're getting, you are being defrauded. And, there's the proverbial, you've won a lottery, you've gotten an inheritance from this relative that doesn't exist. People mustn't be gullible. I think a lot of cyber crime doers act on the gullibilities of people. Now, in 2020, I think a lot of people do think actually that they may have won something online, so they are keen maybe to pay a couple of rand to redeem a prize if it is couched properly. So, yes, I think it is the important thing to say that people need to be, they need to check what information they're giving out, to whom they're giving it, what apps they're putting on their phones, and just to generally be vigilant.
Professor Sizwe, some people have argued that the technological era has been much of a curse than a blessing. So then, what is the negative impact to one's social and, of course, economic well-being if cyber attacks are not dealt with?
I think we are in the post-COVID era, and the COVID era showed us that without technology, we cannot actually be doing business. Therefore, it is important that we appreciate the fact that the use of technology is a now thing. It is no longer a want. It is no longer a dream. I mean, even this interview that's taking place, we're using Zoom. You are in the other side of Africa. We are here in the southern tip of Africa. And technology is a reality. So people need to embrace that technology is a reality and just change their ways in which they use their devices as they easily fall prey to criminals.
All right, let's talk about service providers. Willem, talk about service providers, that is banks, shopping malls, online retail merchants, as the case may be. Are they actually doing enough with their platforms to protect consumers' data and protect their clients from being defrauded? Because, of course, we know that so much information, just as the professor has said, go online when the business is to be transacted. So are they doing that much? What is needed to actually protect their consumers from their information going public?
Yes, I think the question is how much is too much. We know that the majority of your service providers spend a lot of money, they spend a lot of time and effort and technology in order to safeguard themselves and their clients. We see that with the banks, we see that with government, we see that with other institutions, and also online businesses. Do they spend enough? Maybe not. I think we need to maybe invest more in order to safeguard ourselves as well as the businesses. We need to be more streetwise in order to safeguard us. As the professor just mentioned, this is something that is here to stay. It's not going to go away. So if we do not manage it properly, it's going to get a hold of us and it's going to get on top of us.
So finally, what about cybercrime laws? For those who are victims, what can they do when they fall victim of these cyber attacks in terms of protecting themselves or seeking legal cases that probably could help them retrieve their monies or get justice during this attack? Let me start with Willem before I go to the professor.
Okay, yeah, we in South Africa have got you can't say brand new law, but a new law, cybercrime law that was rolled out in 2020 that provides extensive powers and tools to the police and law enforcement in order to seize and to investigate. So that is a very good thing. We're in process of rolling that out, and we're also in process of establishing the capacity within law enforcement in order to effectively investigate and police this act and administer this act. So within in that act, it actually stipulates that should you fall prey to any cyber crime, you have to report it to the police within 72 hours in order for them to follow up, etc., etc. So that is in place in South Africa in terms of protecting the public.
All right, Professor Sizwe, what's your take? Quickly.
Yes, I fully agree that the Cyber Crimes Act has been enacted to deal with cyber criminality. But I think it's also important that we add the Protection of Personal Information Act. You will notice that also in the Nigerian jurisdiction, there has been various changes dealing with data protection laws. And we've had our data protection law since 2013. The inaugural information regulator was from 2016 until last year. And we've seen the papaya not just being a piece of legislation anymore, but actually enforcement now of data protection laws, which includes a mandatory reporting of cybersecurity breaches. And I think that is a very, very important thing, especially when it comes to the private sector. The private sector now has a mandatory duty to report incidents of data breaches, whereas maybe in the past, they would have not wanted to report same to any authority and rather keep quiet.
So basically, it's all about reporting cyber attacks and whatever form it comes, and ensuring that laws are enacted to actually ensure justice for those who are victims of these. Thank you so much, Professor Sizwe Mtuzi, and of course, William Els, for joining us.
Thank you.